Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the QTech Connection, episode 11. Today's topic of discussion is one that we hold dear here at QTech, is bringing our customers' design ideas into reality. So today's topic is design challenges, bringing ideas to reality. In today's episode, we're going to navigate through our process, how we go from understanding our client's vision to a final product and everything that happens in between as we go through this learning process of meeting with a customer, understanding what they want, going through the flow, and ending with a product that they are happy with. Because at the end of the day, it's not what we want, is what the customer likes. We are here to provide guidance. We're here to provide mock-ups and design ideas and different versions. And at the end is the customer that has the final say. Whether they like it or not, they will make those decisions, and we have to provide them as much insight as we can, advising them on what is good, what is bad, and then landing at a final product. So let's start with first segment of today's episode, which is understanding the client vision. So these are the initial stages we take. So we usually, before we meet with a customer, we have them complete an online form. And that online form walks the customer through several questions to kind of help them think about elements, colors, and its psychology, and the vision and mission, and things that help them better understand their brand, which will translate into helping us understand what they have in mind. Because a lot of the times, the customers might show up with no idea at all. They know they want a logo, and they might like the color green, purple, orange, whatever, but they don't have a idea already in place. But then you have another customer that might come in and they already have something square set on. And you have to deal with these two challenges because they bring their pros and cons like anything in life. So at this stage, it's very important for us to understand the client's vision and expectations. Because here in this first introductory meeting is where the groundwork gets placed, is where the team collects information, where we ask the right questions, where we try to get into the mind of our customers to extract what it is they have, if they have something, and vice versa. If they have nothing, try to kind of arrive at a common place where we can understand each other and be able to set those expectations moving forward. So what techniques do we utilize to collect this information, or in this case, the details that will help us understand what we need to do? Well, like I stated a little earlier, the questionnaire that we share with our customers, it's key. That helps us understand where they are. And again, at times, they might not even know where they're at, and they might be blank. So that introductory meeting that I mentioned as well is key. Setting early expectations, setting early goals and alignment is key for this process of understanding their vision. So how do we understand this process, and how do we get to understanding the client's vision? Is we walk them through the questionnaire, we review their answers, and we take that, and as a team, we assemble some follow-up questions, we assemble some theories, we assemble some samples of elements that they might like. And when we have a one-to-one with the customer, we're able to kind of balance out from each other and be able to discuss these things. What tools or methods do we use to capture client requirements effectively? It varies. It varies because based on the client, based on how knowledgeable they are, it's really up to us, the design team, to drill down into the customer. Because again, you might have a customer that is very well knowledgeable on some elements, and they might think they want this particular thing. But after going through the process, after going through the questions, we learned that that's not what they meant or what they need. So active listening, it's a great tool. Asking a lot of questions, it's another one, because we're trying to learn from someone else what their business is about, what their vision, what their mission is. And we're grabbing all of these facts, stories, memories, and just writing everything down so we can put a picture together that as we move through this process, we can then present to the customer, and hopefully, because it's a 50-50 game, hopefully we hit it on the bullseye. And sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So the techniques of gathering this data is active listening, asking as many questions as possible with the time that you have allotted with your customer, and going through to the process. So one of the things that was asked for this episode was, what is some of the challenges you've had with trying to bring a vision, a client's vision, to reality? Well, we've had many, but one that stands out the most is we had a customer come in, they had another business and they already had a logo in mind. But during our initial process on understanding their vision, they failed to tell us that they already had something in mind. And they share with us a complete different vision for what their logo needed to be. So we took that information, we ran with it, we created mock-ups, mood boards, and we went about presenting this information. And it was a gut punch when we hear back from the customer saying, what in the world is all of this? We were blindsided, because usually if we don't hit the bullseye, we're close. The customer will come back and say, I love this, but can we change this? Can we change this element, maybe this color, or can we add a shadow or a gradient, whatever? We can put it in there. But with this specific customer, we just missed the board completely. And it took us back for a second, because we analyzed everything we collected. We replayed the meeting recordings. We went through our notes. We met with the design team and said, what went wrong? Like, how are we so off? Well, it turns out that the customer already had something in mind, and it was complete opposite. And the logo they asked for tools, they asked for hard, bright colors, but what they really wanted were more tropical, more sunset type of colors. And it was a huge contrast from what we received to what the customer wanted. So based on that, we had to sit down and go to the drawing board and kind of start again. And then with that new information that we received, with that additional meeting that we had, where we collected this new set of variables, we were able to put together the logos the customer wanted. And once we shared those mock-ups with them, it was a home run. So these are the challenges, because somehow, and we went back, I went back through the notes to try to understand what went wrong. And it was just, there was a miscommunication within the customer's team. And then it translated to us going in the wrong direction and being so off the mark. So let's move to our next segment, translating ideas into design. So I kind of talked about it a little bit in segment one. Once we have that onboarding meeting or that first discovery meeting with the customer, we take all that feedback, we sit down as a team, we start reviewing it. Mallory, unfortunately, couldn't be here. She's not feeling well. She usually takes all that information and with the team starts creating a mood board. These are different elements, different colors, different shapes, different things to use as an inspiration based on the feedback we've collected from our time with the customer and the form they submitted. So once we have that mood board, we're able to pivot in different directions. And here's where the tricky part kicks in, when we have to start this balancing act between creativity and practicality. Because you can be as creative as possible, but then you might have a product that's not practical. Or you might go the other way and be super practical and not be able to have something that's very creative or inspired. And that's where we start generating some design concepts. Off this mood board, we start just playing with different things and we start creating these little mock-ups. That is the team, we get together and start analyzing, understanding, and kind of tweaking to start making sense of things. We usually design 3 to 4, sometimes 5 variations of logos, different colors, different palettes, complete different designs, just to kind of see where the mark goes and where the customer's vision kind of goes, depending on how the variables are aligned on the data we collected. Sketching, mockups play a critical role to this process because they start working as a framework. It's one thing to talk about, oh my God, I have this computer idea, I want to make it sleek. But once you think something in your head, once you bring it into a sketch or into a mock-up, we're able to see the flaws. You're able to see how lights might interact with the design, shading, fonts, if you have to add a name, company name, or staff name, depending what you're designing. Once you start putting this through its spaces, you might start seeing some flaws in your design, and that impacts the final product. So sketching and prototypes and mockups are very important because we're able to play with this digital asset on paper or through a screen. We're able to rotate it. We're able to put in different scenarios. If it's going to be used on a plaque, it's going to be mounted on a building, it's going to be a business card. We're able to create these concepts and look at them and see how the design interacts with the environment, how it interacts with the different settings, and then adjust and continue prototyping, continue sketching, and making those tweaks that happen. So one of the questions that I received for this part was, how do we balance a client's vision with practical design constraints? This is where it gets tricky, especially when clients already have their mindset on something. We balance this by creating a set of mockups that slightly vary from each other. So you might start with a concept of I want an apple. So we have an apple, and then the apple morphs into an orange. So we're able to give the customer a broad spectrum of the logo or the website or the creative piece that we're making for them. And that way they're able to look at this object and say, you know what? I never knew I liked apples or oranges or in between. And it allows them to also go through this creative process in their minds and look at their logo, look at their brand in a whole different new light, expanding their horizons and expanding their own creativity and helping us with the feedback that we need to get us to the goal line. What are some common challenges when translating ideas into design? Well, the biggest challenge that we have is when customers are too broad, or because being too broad allows us to have too much freedom. And with that freedom comes a lot of risks, because we might play with gradients that we'd never played before, and we run the risk of the customers liking it or not. So in this stage, communication as we go through this process is key to try to better align those expectations based on what we're trying to achieve, which is translating these ideas into a final product, or in this case, a mock-up that the customers can interact with and provide feedback. So our sketches usually align with our client expectations by allowing us to just take the raw data and start putting it into paper and start playing with this mold and shaping the mold to what we need it to be. And from there, once we have these molds completed, like I said, we usually create 5 different revisions from oranges to apples and everything in between to allow the customer to see this spectrum. So this now takes us into our next segment, which is navigating changes and revisions. And here's where our creative process, our designs meet the real world, meaning they meet our customers. Here's usually we call a meeting, or depending on the agreement, we might just email the mockups to our customers and we await feedback. And through this, it's very common to have some back and forth with the customer. There's the occasions which we've been many times with, where we just, the first time it's the best time and perfect, no revisions are needed. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next stage. Or we sit down and go through the grueling process of, okay, you don't like this, you don't like that, or this concept was way off, or this concept is close, and start going through those revisions. And the common reasons for changes and revisions and these type of design projects come from not grasping or not aligning the vision of the customer at times, or even when doing so, it's just the customer has been looking at other elements in the time that it took us to present these things, and their idea for their brand or their design has morphed with the time that it took us to get to these mockups. And we have to sit down, talk to them, analyze their new perspectives, try to align them, and have discussions. And through this process, we might have, depending on the package that the customer selected, we go through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 revisions to get to a final product. And with this, we do have some strategies that we use to managing client feedback and revisions. We make it very clear from the beginning of the contract how many revisions you have, and the revisions that fall outside of that, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, revisions, there'll be an additional cost. So once the customers see as well that, oh my God, it's going to cost me more money, they kind of get a little more serious and providing feedback based on how many revisions we have. That's something that we found that works really well when there's any kind of financial add-on or I don't want to call it penalty, but it's pretty much what it is. Is you have this many revisions, anything more than that, there's going to be an additional charge for those extra revisions. And then with that comes, how does this revisions affect or impact timelines and budgets? Well, if this specific design has to coincide with the launch of a product, with the launch of a website, or it's part of phase one of a complete website package and everything else, it might affect the additional services and products that have to happen down the road. Meaning, if the web team is waiting for their brand to start implementing the mockups, to start designing the web pages to better match the brand and the logo that we have, it impacts those timelines. It shifts things to a later time. And when time shifts, a lot of the time, budgets increase because now you got to pay for additional revisions, delays, posting, and such get delayed, and that has increased costs. So we always communicate this clearly during our introductory meeting with the customer. We always try to set buffer time to allow for some delays to be able to be eating into the original development schedule to try to keep us on target and on point and minimize any of those disturbances that might happen to follow-up projects after this one. So how do we handle client changes that come late in the design process? So we used to allow revisions at any time, and that was a nightmare. That was a quick lesson that we learned and no more. So we changed our policy to say, we don't move to the final stage until customer has signed off on these revisions. Allowing such late design process changes can just keep you there for weeks or months. And again, eat up into your profit margin, depending on the contract that you have, increasing the cost for the customer because now there's additional fees or additional delays that come up, and then nobody's happy. And then that's how misunderstanding happens and customers might get aggravated, and because of no fault of your own or the customers or both parties, the relationship gets soured and people just walk away pissed off. To avoid all those things, we leave all of those fine print clear early on in this stage to ensure that there's no surprises, and then we don't allow late design process changes anymore because, again, lessons learned. So what strategies do we do for managing feedback and revisions? Well, that kind of connects back to what I said earlier. We clarify that with the customers from day one. Clear expectations on anything, not just design or website or anything else, with any project. Clear expectations and clear communications are always key to ensure you and your customer are on the same page. Once you miss a line, that's when problems happen, miscommunication triggers, and then people are not in sync, and miscommunication and problems happen at that point. What strategies do we use to keep the project on track, even with numerous revisions? Like I said before, we control that from the beginning by depending on the package the customer selects. So we know exactly they have 3 revisions, 6 revisions, 9 revisions, whatever the number of revisions are, they already know, and there's no surprises for them or ourselves. And that saves a lot of headache, that saves a lot of time. So let's continue moving to our next segment, collaboration and communication. As I said earlier, communication is key, both with the customer and within the internal team that is creating this creative project. So what is the importance of effective communication and collaboration design projects? Communication and collaboration are the blood of these creative projects because without it, the flow of ideas cannot take place. And for these creatives, it's so good to have a group of people to bounce off ideas because you might like this layout, but somebody else might come up and say, you know what, we can make it better if we do X, Y, and Z. And that's where the teamwork, that collaboration, those mood boards that I mentioned earlier, all those discussions, the client feedback, and everything comes together in a melting pot. And we're all sitting around the table, serving everybody a little bit of the pot and discussing it and making it better, tasting it. So it tastes good. Does it need more salt? Does it need more pepper? You like spicy, not spicy. We have those discussions there to get to a final recipe. And I'm using this analogies because it kind of is like you're cooking a recipe. You're going back and forth trying to guess what the customer likes. Do they like spicy? Do they like more salt? Do they like lemon, pepper, and such? So the final product, the final dish, it's something that they're willing to digest and accept and understand. So without collaboration, without communication, we wouldn't be able to do anything. I'm also often asked, like, what tools and techniques do we use to maintain clear and consistent communication with clients? So as you guys know, we are a full remote company. We have team members all throughout the world, North, South America, Europe, Asia. So we've been blessed to be able to find talent and team members throughout the world. So for us, communication is more critical because we don't have the opportunity to meet at the water cooler, meet in the staff lounge, be able to walk into my design team's office and say, hey guys, what's going on? We do that through Microsoft Teams. We live through Teams, we die through Teams, and that's where all of the communications on top of all the tools that we have to manage this creative process, sketching process, to get, again, that recipe right and get it into the plate of our customers. The role of team communication is critical because with it, we're able to overcome challenges, whether it be internal challenges. A lot of times a team member or two might get blocked and they can't think about something. That's when other team members come in and say, hey, what's going on? How can I help? Tell me the idea. What is it? And then going through those discussions, we're able to help each other through those mental blocks and be able to get to the next stage of the design process. So again, design, it's a very team-driven approach. Yes, our design team a lot of times just go by themselves and do it, but we all come together at the start, in the middle, and at the end to ensure we're all there supporting each other and ensuring we give the best final product to our customers. So as I said it, important communication is an important part of the design process. Without it, we wouldn't be able to provide the services and the satisfaction our customers expect. And project manager is key because one of the questions that I received as well for this podcast is, how do you ensure everyone is on the same page throughout the project? So as we said before, we use a platform called Asana. In there, we create the project boards. We break down everything by tasks. We break them down as detail or milestones and assign the specific elements to all the team members. And we have weekly status reports that each department submits where they kind of summarize everything they've been doing, any challenges they have, and allows us to understand if this project is at risk or if we need to jump on and add more people to this project because it's behind schedule, or communicate with the customer because we foresee a problem. So we try to be proactive rather than reactive as much as possible. And then it allows us to, the entire team that is across the world, be on the same page at the same time, just by looking at the dashboard and those reports that come about. So with that in mind, let's talk about some real life examples of what's happened to us. So as I mentioned earlier in the first segment, where we're trying to collect that information, a lot of the times you have two subsets of customers, one that know what they want, one that they don't what they want. And from there, we collect that data. So we received a brief from a customer where we needed to redesign their logo. So they already have a logo. They didn't have branding guidelines, so we also had to create those. And in the process of creating the logo, the team started researching. It was an industry that we have worked with in the past, and a very challenging industry is the aviation industry. And we collected ideas. The team actually spent a lot of time researching airplanes, researching engines, propellers, all elements reference to aviation, and came up with 5 concepts. Once we shared those 5 concepts with the customer, I got a phone call. We're like family, and this is nothing personal. I already knew it was going the wrong way as soon as they said to tell me that. The customer tells me that, and I said, "Sure, what's going on, man?" So he goes, "These logos, they're horrible, and they don't represent anything what we talked about, anything what we said." And after that phone call, I was very aggravated because again, it's our name going to our customers. It's myself shaking the hand of our customer saying, "We got you. We know what you want. We'll be able to make it happen." And to get that phone call was another punch in the gut, as I said previously, with the other experience, which I'll get more into that one in a moment. But based on that, I hung up the phone. I pull up the project. I pull up the design elements that they sent, and I see what happened. The team focused too much in the engine, and the logo became too circular, and it broke off from the original logo too much because, as I mentioned a little prior, this was a redesign. This was not a complete overhaul. This was not take this logo that is old, throw it away, and make something new. This was take this logo and update it to 2023 standards. This is when the project was taking place. And after I saw that, after I saw the notes, I called a team meeting and I sat with all of them and I asked them, walk me through your process. We went through the process, we went through the systems, and I started asking questions like, guys, where in the process did we forget that this was a redesign? So us five together started brainstorming, came up with new concepts, came up with new mock-ups, came up with some incredible designs. My goodness. It was such a beautiful logo we came up with, honoring the original logo, honoring elements, showcasing where it came from and such. And then we had a follow-up meeting with the customer where they plain out say, this is what I'm used to from you guys. I don't know what happened the first time around that you guys were so off, but this is what I was expecting that time. That made me feel a lot better. That returned the life to my body and was able to please the customer after missing the mark so horribly. And we went through those revisions, we made some tweaks, and as much as we liked logo number 5, they ended up going with something more conservative, more to the lines of the original logo, which again, we create, but it's not up to us for the customer dictates, because at the end of the day, they're the ones paying for our service. So we were sad because the original that we liked, logo number 5, it's crazy. I still remember which logo it was. After all this time has happened, it is what it is. It's part of doing business. It's the customer has the final word. In this case, in this example, we dropped the ball. Doing our process, we forgot that it was a redesign. We took that too hard and we revisited our procedures to make sure that we annotated the requirements of the project more clearly in our dashboards. So our design team could see the customer feedback more clearly because we missed it in this instance and we got better. So, we felt, we got up, we dusted ourselves and didn't give up. Told the customer, we will make it better. Just give me the opportunity. And we did. We delivered a home run. They were happy and they have a new design. The other project that I wanted to share with you guys, it was for a construction service, I believe. It was in the service industry, which I don't have it in front of me, but I recall this instance because it was such a gut punch as well. We went through the meeting, as I was saying a little earlier in the episode. We collected the information and the customers gave us all this insight in the wrong direction. They and their team already, or I believe another member of the team already had an idea. They just forgot to share it with the other team members of the company. So when they came to us, they gave us all this insight. We collected all this information that took us left when they wanted to go right. So when we deliver all the elements that we needed to deliver, it was a huge miss. I mean, I recall that email. It was like a few months ago. And I was like, what happened? Like, I went back to the notes, but we did exactly. I mean, I was looking at the briefs. I was looking at the mood boards. I was looking at the different mock-ups and everything. I said, but this is exactly what the customer asked for. What is the problem? So we called the meeting. We talked and they said, oh, we apologize, but we already had this in mind. And these elements, which are complete contrast to what the information they provided us the first time around. So that's why we have revisions. Every package that we offer has revisions just to accommodate for things like this. Once we met with the customer and we learned of this new vision that they had that they didn't share with us, we were able to then tailor the mock-ups and the designs to match that vision. And when we presented it, they were happy and we hit a home run. and we closed that project, and now we're moving to the next phase of web design and development. So the big thing is to listen, to not take feedback personal, and to be able to have open-minded, because creative process, it's a unique process because everybody can see the same image, but come to different conclusions. And it's tough. So educating your customer through that process is also another important skill to have, because they might not know why it has to look this way or be shaped this way because of other complexities that they might not even be aware of. So it's your job as a design team, as a design company, to communicate those things to the customer and explain the creative process that go behind it, because it might make more sense to them. So now we're moving towards the ending of the today's episode. I would like to thank you, listeners, for taking your time and staying with me, my lonesome self today. Next week, I'm hoping you guys should be feeling better and should join us for episode 12. And like I said today, we talked about that initial creative process, first introduction meeting, collecting all the information to the customer, taking that vision and put it into reality, communicating as a team, coming together and start putting those molds, those designs, those mock-ups together, to then presenting it and be willing to go through the revision process. Those are all key moments in this creative process that you see take shape every day. You know, every time you see a new sign go up, a new construction taking place, a new ad, billboard, whatever it may be, there's a lot of hours that have gone, and a room filled with designers, creatives, and people trying to argue for everything you see there. So next time you're driving down, or when you open a book, or you see just take a second and say, damn, somebody's sat here for hours creating this ad that I just skipped, or seeing this beautiful design that I just threw in the garbage. It took people's time. Somewhere in a boardroom, in an office building, remote team came together, created those elements. It was approved, it was printed, it was digitized, whatever medium is being released on, and it's now hitting the masses. Looking ahead, we have some more episodes coming up. So I hope you guys like, subscribe, and please comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. Every episode that we make it for you. Like I said, it's not scripted. We are just trying to be as real as possible and sharing our lessons with you all. And stay tuned, because we do have some interesting guests coming down. So thank you, be well, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.